Hello, and welcome to a late Monday night version of Owlbear Soup, where we're going to be digging into feats this week.
Oh, exciting. I've been waiting for this one. I love
Yeah,
feats. I don't know about you, but I like feats.
I like feats. It's one of the things that makes D&D interesting and makes building
Right?
characters interesting. It was something that was introduced in the third edition of Dungeons and Dragons. Second edition didn't really deal with feats. We had proficiencies and stuff like that. There was some stuff that was kind of starting to become feats, but we weren't quite
Right.
there. And so we have this lovely thing in fifth edition, which we also had in fourth edition and third edition, of course, and Pathfinder, and now it's really
Yeah.
ubiquitous with D20 uh, role playing games, and that is feats. So here we are. It's time to discuss some feats, and I think I'm all set up for it. So let's see if this works.
Oh, good.
Oh, wrong screen share. Different screen share. There we go. Now I think we're looking good. All right. So what I have on the screen above Richard is I have the feats that we're going to be talking about. And then above me, I have a spreadsheet in which we're going to be filling out some information about the feats.
Yeah.
And since we're not focusing on optimizing for a specific class, we're not going to be using the same kind of pluses and minus symbology that we were using before. Instead, we're just going to
Yeah.
give them a letter rating. And then we'll hopefully be able to turn that into kind of an infographic at some point and post it on our website for viewing pleasure.
Right. So I
So,
like tier lists. That makes a lot of sense for what we're up to right here. So
yeah,
I'm in.
that's what I was thinking. And we're going to go ahead and kick it off with the old aberrant dragon mark. This is
Yes.
quite the robust feat. I have to make a quick technical adjustment, but if you want to start talking about it,
Sure.
please do.
Right. So Aberrant Dragon Mark comes out of Eberron, right? And one of the big things about Eberron is that the noble families all have their own dragon marks. They've controlled it really carefully. So heirs of the house will gain these marks and they use them to benefit the house. All you get special abilities, basically spell like abilities, and like the House of Passage, House Orion has all this stuff about transportation or teleportation. um, all the marks are pretty nailed down like that to a house. Aberrant Dragon Mark puts you outside of that system, which means you just have a weird thing. You just have some
Yeah.
abilities. You have a mark on your body, like some kind of tattoo. And if any of the houses see it, they're going to, bust you up. But because it is so random, like it fits in any setting, kind of like if you want an aberrant dragon mark and I don't have dragon mark houses, I'm kind of okay with that.
Yeah, and if I were to put it into Forgotten Realms specifically, you could do the same thing, and it could just be a spell scar. Spell
Exactly.
scars were something that came up specifically in fourth edition. I don't know about third edition, not super familiar with the way third edition works, but in fourth edition at least, they were these tears in the weave that allowed you to that allowed you personally, because you were there, to tap into
Mhm.
those powers and perform like minor mundane magical tricks.
I'm kind of curious. I never remember for Forgotten Realms specifically if the spell scar was specifically why magic in fourth edition was different than third edition.
Oh,
Right? There's always that event, or is that the
yeah.
spell plague?
It's
I
the
don't
spell
know.
plague. Yeah,
Okay.
so yeah, the cataclysm between third edition and fourth edition is what brought Abir back. So that's why we have the Dragonborn and
Uh,
that all. So Abir and Faerun became part of one, and that had to do with a rift in the way magic works, because they're
gotcha.
always
Gotcha.
changing the way magic works in the fifth edition
Yeah.
or in the Forgotten Realms.
Right.
Okay,
Which is the
so
same thing.
yeah. So, kind of looking at this, so we got a little bit of the background about it. So in this, you increase your con score by 1, which is nice. I think any
Always
feat that
good.
has that is a nice bonus. You learn a cantrip of your choice from the sorcerer spell list,
Mhm.
and a first level spell from the sorcerer spell list. Um, and I think that's great. That's a lot of fun too.
Yeah.
When you cast first level spell through your mark, you can expend one of your hit dice and roll it. If you roll an even number, you gain a number of temporary hit points equal to the number rolled. If you roll an odd number, one random creature within 30 feet of you takes force damage equal to the number rolled. So
Right.
it's a fun feat. You get a stat boost,
Mhm.
which I think is good, and you
Yes.
get some extra spells. So
right?
Eh,
And not only that, those extra spells, like if these are going to be sorcerer spells, so probably damaging,
mhm.
right? And they're based on constitution, which is the thing we just increase. And I always want my characters to have a decent constitution, so
Yeah.
I am probably getting a +2,
Mhm.
on whatever my attack is, which is
Yeah.
great. So +4. Um, Even if I'm a fighter, that's not bad, especially at relatively early levels. I mean, it's going to be a little bit
Yeah.
off my strength, but not much.
But I
And then,
mean,
yeah,
for your cantrip, you could take something like Mage Hand, and for your first level spell, you could take Shield, right? So both neither of these spells have any kind of uh, worry about having a good charisma.
that is true. That is true. And it's pretty exciting that you can do this once per short rest as well. I like that,
Mhm.
giving this a lot of, if you want to be the person who's using false life, whatever.
Yeah.
um, yeah, you get a lot of utility out of this. And
Mhm.
the extra benefit is just fun. I
Yeah.
really
The
like it.
the greater aberrant powers.
Yeah. Oh, I was thinking the D6 roll. If
Oh
you
yeah,
expend
yeah,
a hit die, I could hurt someone else or myself or gain
yeah,
hit points. I mean, that's just a little bit of gravy for this. So I
yeah. That
like that.
that chaos is pretty gravy there, and
Mhm.
I definitely dig it too. You also develop a random flaw from these,
Yep.
so this kind of gives you a little bit more role playing stuff. And if Keith Baker was involved, he's always gonna give you more role playing stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but I like these. It's a fun way to kind of add more depth to your character why you have
Mhm.
this thing. Around animals around you or animals are uneasy around you. That could lead
Right.
to some interesting situations based on the fact that you're dragon marked.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I think it's cool. um,
Yeah.
I enjoy this bit. And I think more feats should have something like this, kind of a capstone style thing.
Yeah.
And so this one, it's an option, so you can get greater aberrant powers. So what happens is once you hit level 10, you have a 10% chance each level of gaining an epic boon. And those are some pretty fun stuff, but
They
not
really
to
are.
get to it. Yeah, there is a little bit of a negative. You also lose one of your hit dice, and maximum hit points equal to what that hit dice equivocates.
Mhm.
But still, I think this is a very solid feat. I would put this in
Yeah.
a I'm thinking let's go with tier. I'm thinking tier A.
I agree. I think so. That extra thing is very cool. I love that it's not 10% until you gain an ability. It could just keep getting these. That would be a
Yep.
lot of fun for a thing. But the feat as it stands, I think, is very good. Gives you a lot of options. I
Hmm.
always want a cantrip,
Yeah.
and con is always good. Like
Yep.
it's hard to say that's a bad feat.
Yeah. There's nothing bad about that feat.
Mm-mm. Not
All right.
S tier, but A tier.
Right. Right. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
guess I guess that's the point. Do we want to add an S tier? I think S tier would probably be top tier.
I mean, I know we're a long ways from S on the list, but sharpshooters out there, and
Oh, that's right.
I
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's go ahead and add an
yeah,
S tier. So S tier will be like this is borderline broken.
right,
It's
exactly.
so good,
Like,
it's borderline broken. Tier A is
mhm,
this is a solid all around feat,
yeah,
and then so on and so forth. Okay, cool.
yeah,
That's kind of what I was thinking, but I just wanted to make sure.
yeah. That
So
sounds good. I like it.
cool, doing it live, figuring it all out live.
Woo.
Let's talk a little bit about the next feat on our list. This feat was into PHB, so this is one that's been around a little bit. We've seen a little bit. This is actor.
Mhm.
Actor is skilled at mimicry and dramatics, and you gain
And dramatiques.
dramatiques. You gain the following benefits. Yeah, charisma boost right off the bat. That's going to be good for a lot of people. I'm pretty into
True.
that. So, if you're a type of character that wants that extra charisma boost, I think that's good.
Yeah,
That already elevates this feat above like a D, which will probably be our lowest tier.
yeah, yeah.
Um, it already moves it up above that, right? So it's going to be at least a C in my heart, in my
Fair
head.
enough. Fair. Okay. Well, from there, you have advantage on charisma deception checks, deception and performance checks while trying to pass yourself off as a different person. There's a lot of times that's super helpful. And
Yeah.
I,
No.
I like having rules for it. Just casting disguise self and being like, I'm the king, woo. But,
Hmm.
this is very helpful for that.
Yeah, and then you can mimic the speech of another person and sounds that are made by other creatures. You must have
Mhm.
heard this person speaking or heard the creature make a sound for at least 1 minute. A successful wisdom insight check contested by your charisma deception check allows the listener to determine the effect is faked or not.
Great.
Um, yeah, and I mean, that's great too. So, but here's the thing.
Yeah.
Social feats are always going to be feel a little bit weaker,
Yeah.
because a lot of the feats that people take are to help them in the side of combat. So when we're trying to determine a tier for this feat, we should take into consideration, as part of it, as we're thinking about what is the likelihood someone's actually going to take this feat.
Hmm. This is an interesting one because this is a feat that defines rules actually rather than the other way around. If
Right.
I didn't know this feat existed and someone was trying to impersonate someone, I would
Mhm.
usually let them do these. So honestly, by seeing the feat, now the ability itself becomes less powerful.
Yeah.
Um, we just wouldn't have realized, but then we go like, "Oh, actor says I can do that," so everybody else stop. Like, you can't do this anymore.
Mhm.
Um, so once I realized that, it's actually pretty helpful because the world space is decreased. But if I just skipped this feat and just allowed this and said, "You sure you can try to mimic someone? I don't know, make an insight check, do something."
Yeah.
We could hand wave around a lot of these rules. I don't know that it adds a ton
Yeah.
unless we get real, rules as written.
Yeah, I think, just looking at organized play and and what I saw at the tables there, as well as all the various games I played, people just don't take this feat, and the reason is pretty much be why you spelled out. I think is that it codifies rules in such a way that it's not really a fun feat to take.
Exactly. Yeah. I would rather kind of like, when we're doing this, I'm impersonating someone. Like it's a little looser, it's a little more fun
Yeah,
and playful. And this
yeah,
feat like kind of takes that playfulness away.
yeah. So it does give you a bonus to charisma, so it's not a D.
Yeah.
I
Right.
kind of want to put it at tier C.
Sure. The advantage is good. I mean, there's no way I would give people advantage on a lot of these checks. So that part is still a benefit.
Yeah.
If you want to play this kind of deceptive character.
Yeah, but yeah, and I think it's good for certain builds, which is why I'm not
Yeah.
like totally shooting it down. But I do feel pretty strongly that this is a feat that probably is among the least taken of all the
I would
feats that
agree
we're
with
going to
that.
talk about. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about alert.
Ooh.
Alerts, great. Always on the lookout for danger. You gain the following benefits. Well, right off the bat, you get a +5 to initiative. Initiatives is one of
Sure.
those things that's
Yeah.
real tough to get a hold of.
Mhm.
So anytime you can get any kind of bonus, it's pretty fantastic.
Absolutely. I love that. You can't be surprised while you are conscious. Take that, assassins.
Hmm.
That's amazing.
Right.
Um,
And this
right,
one
because
is also
yeah, go
great.
ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say this next one is also great. The other creatures don't gain advantage on attack rolls against you as a result of being unseen by you.
That's incredible.
So
That
good.
means the sniper across the city, or whatever it is, at range doesn't matter. I don't. You see that arrow coming, block it.
Right. Yeah, like Aubrey says in the chat, nothing slips by me. I would catch it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Ooh,
exactly.
yeah. This and deflect arrows, tons of fun.
That's fun. And then they just my party in the D&D game just recently went up a bunch of unseen servants, and those are a pain in the butt.
Sure.
Only one of the players on the team had alert, and they did just fine. But yeah,
Yeah. Um, I've since like I said, the assassin class, like their ability is based around you not having this feat because this feat wrecks everything they've got. So
hmm
I think it's good for those reasons. I think it's very good just to get the initiative bonus. I mean, there's just that's bonkers. If you were
yeah,
focused on initiative, this is an easy way to get a +8. +9.
easy.
And then you're just getting to go first. You just period. And
Hmm.
if you are playing the cleric with a low dex and you're sick and tired of it, one
Yeah.
feat and you are ahead of the game, which is great.
Mhm. Now, alert is one of those feats that I feel like, even though it doesn't have a stat boost, it still hangs in there, and it's still a great
Oh, yeah,
pick.
I agree.
Um, so we've set the high watermark so far at Aberrant Dragon Mark. Where does this land in comparison to that on our tier list?
Let's see. If this was a stat bonus, it would be an easy A tier. Even without, I'm tempted. I
Yeah.
love that +5 to initiative. It's so helpful. Just to get that extra round, just going before the enemies is just so good. And this is the biggest boost. It's wow.
Yeah. No, I agree. I was leaning towards A as well. I just didn't want
Yeah.
to push an
I
A.
don't think we're wrong.
No, I don't think we're wrong at all. It's if
Yeah.
it had a stat boost, I think then we would finally hit S tier, right? But
Yeah.
I think we're in a good spot giving it tier A.
This is one I know a lot of people take because they start looking through the feats and they start reading at the beginning and they see this one and they go, well, that's it. That's the one. But
Yeah.
it's also a very good one to have at the front because it's very good.
Right?
Oh, wow. All right. Are you ready for athlete then?
I'm ready for athlete. Bring it.
Okay. So, athlete, you go through some extensive physical training to increase either your strength or dex by one to a max
Mhm.
of 20, which is very cool. When you are prone, standing up uses only 5 feet of your movement instead of half of your movement. Climbing doesn't cost you extra, so again, not halved. And you can make a running long jump or a running high jump after moving only 5 feet on foot rather than 10 feet.
Yep. That's a rule I often forget, but
Me
yeah.
too.
Um
The one
I
I
don't know.
like here the most is the climbing one, right? That's getting you pretty
Yeah.
reasonably close to just having a climb speed. You
Mhm.
know, if you've got this and a reasonable athletics check, there you go. You've got a climb speed basically.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Um,
I
but
do like this the when you're a prone standing about and it costs you 5 feet of movement, but
Mhm.
I really only like it for monks.
Yeah.
Um because they're disproportionately hurt by prone because like if you have a speed of 50 feet, well you lose 25 feet, where if somebody who has a speed of 30 feet they only lose 15.
Right.
So I think it's valuable for them. The stat boost is nice. Yeah, I mean the climb speed I think is good, but I don't know that I use climbing enough in my games where it would be
No.
super valuable for my players to be able to do that. This is pretty valuable in a lot of dungeons, but not so
Mhm.
much outside of a dungeon.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's good because we have stat boost and it's a choice. It's dexterity or strength.
That's
And
handy.
and overall, like if you take this feat, you are going to get to use at least one of these.
Oh,
Maybe not
sure.
every session, but every couple of sessions.
I mean, especially if you were playing a game and you get attacked, you're running through Ravenloft, you get attacked by wolves every other day.
Yeah.
That's you get this prone thing. It's fantastic. It means prone doesn't matter to you as long
Mhm.
as you get to go next. I mean, which is great.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's hmm, this is feeling to me like a good but not optimal choice.
Yeah. So I'm thinking tier
You
B
know?
for this one.
Yep. Yep.
Um, it's better than actor, but not as good as aberrant or alert.
I agree.
All right. Just getting through
Whew.
these. We're already to the B's. Oh
Boom,
man, look
boom.
at
I
us
know.
go.
All the way to the bees. Bountiful luck.
All
I mean, we
right.
already know this one's gonna be ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
Um, First, it's got a prereq, excuse me. Got to be a halfling, but that's it.
Well,
Um,
and here's the thing though.
mhm.
That may be different here in a couple of days.
Oh, that's a good point. That is a good point. We are doing this 12 hours before
Hmm.
Tasha's
Hmm.
Cauldron of Everything comes out. So some of these things may change a little bit.
Yeah. So I'm gonna assume that they are stripping all the racial requirements from all these feats.
Fair enough. Well, in that case, well, let's skip the prereq then. When an ally you can see within 30 feet of you rolls a 1 on the d20 for an attack
Hmm.
roll, an ability check, or saving throw, you can use your reaction to let them re-roll the die. They must use a new roll. When you use this ability, you can't use your lucky racial trait before the end of your next turn. So that would,
Hmm.
if you're not a halfling, then who knows what's going on with that.
Yeah.
um,
So I think you're gonna be able to. So this is my assumption: is you're gonna be able to take racial traits from other races. And
mhm.
so, however that works, if you end up with the racial trait, that will be the prerequisite.
Oh, sure, sure. Having the lucky racial trait would be the prerequisite then,
Yeah, yeah. So it's
not
not
being
as
a half.
restrictive as halfling, but still,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So
Okay.
anyway,
That being said,
I
um,
love this.
it's so good. It's great. It's a reaction. I mean, which is fantastic. And it means instead of just one person in the party gets the benefits of lucky, everybody does.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's pretty fantastic. Anytime you can adjust rolls after they've been rolled is going to is going to benefit you at least
Mhm.
once a session.
Yep.
And so having a feat that will give you a benefit once a session is, I think, already, that's another one of those high watermarks, right? Can I
Yeah.
use this feat every session? Well, that bumps it up to at least a C, right? It's not going to be a D.
Easy.
Uh,
Mhm.
is it a useful ability? And absolutely. So I think it's at
Yep.
least tier B. Is it tier A? Well, if you have lucky, I think it is. If you don't have lucky, it clearly isn't. So I think that puts us probably in tier B territory.
Okay. Okay. Yeah,
What do you
I
think?
do. I mean, let's see. It is a reaction, which is really good.
It
It's not a
is.
choice. You have to use the new roll, but you already rolled a one. Doesn't matter. It's not. We don't need advantage on this.
Yeah.
Oh, when it comes up, it's
But
going
it
to be
is.
good. But relying on randomness is always
Yeah.
hard,
Well, yeah, it might be tier A too. Uh, Tier A with a note,
right?
right?
The prereq, depending on what it is, could knock it down a note. But
Right.
I think it's a pretty darn good feat, especially if this is the path you're on. This is just fun. I mean, this is a good
Yeah.
way to help everybody.
Absolutely. This is a feat that you look at your character ahead of time and go, oh yeah, I'm gonna take that feat at level 4.
Right.
I'm gonna take this feat at level 8. And there it is. There's bountiful luck right there waiting for you.
Yeah. Great. Going for tier A. I like it.
All right.
Oh, Charger.
Okay, here we go. So Charger out of the player's handbook. When you use
Hmm.
your action to dash, you can then use a bonus action to make one melee attack or shove a creature. Cool. So a
Yeah.
dash is an action in which you move your speed.
Right.
Um, and so what this essentially gives you the ability to do is charge, which is something that Dave is not an action in fifth edition,
Hmm.
like
It's true.
like it has been in other editions. There is no real charging. It's you move, you dash and then you're done, right? That's your
Hmm.
action. You move your speed and then you're done, or you move your speed then you do your attack. So
Right.
this essentially gives somebody with you're able to move double your speed and make a melee attack so long as the second half of that movement is in a straight line for at least 10
Right.
feet,
Hmm.
and then boom, you get this bonus to your damage roll.
Right. I I really
It's
like
good.
this. Not for not necessarily for like knights and lances, although that's pretty cool too. But for creatures who aren't as fast, like you're running around in heavy armor, things like that, like movement is difficult. And for those characters, taking this feat could be very helpful, like giving you that extra, 25 and then 25 more with a dash
Hmm.
action and a big attack. And I still get to keep kind of up with damage with that +5. It's not terrible.
Yeah, the only thing I could see is like the bonus action issue where it is taking up one of your other actions
I
to do
mean,
this.
yeah,
But if the enemy is already that far away from you, your that bonus action is not a big deal.
yeah. So I like that. I mean, you could. I don't see a monk taking a lot of advantage of this because your speed is already so high. But you
Right.
know that what is it? The dwarven
Oh, the battle rager.
battle rage or something like that, where I just got to get to you, and I'm gonna do it, and it's gonna hurt a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So where do you think we want to place this one?
This one, I mean, I don't want to stick it in the A tier because not. I don't think there's a lot of people that are going to take this. There are a lot of builds that would benefit from this feat. I think,
Yeah.
depending on exactly what you've got. So I would go B. I think.
All right.
Um,
Yeah, I like B.
right.
That's kind of where I was thinking too.
Okay. I wouldn't say C. I mean, this isn't one I would steer people away from, given the
No.
option. Go like this. There's no better way to do this. This is an option other characters will not have if you take this feat.
Exactly. All right. Well, then let's knock it at tier B, and then well, I think you have some things to say about this next one. So let's go ahead and dive into crossbow expert.
I do. What? Um, Thanks to extensive practice with the crossbow, you ignore the loading property, a thing I always forget about. Being within 5 feet of a hostile creature doesn't impose disadvantage on your ranged attack rolls. Okay. I've chosen prestige classes just to get that
Hmm.
ability back in third
Yep.
ed. When you use the attack action and attack with a one-handed weapon, hand crossbow. You can use a bonus action to attack with a hand crossbow you are holding.
Yep.
Um, so this is our double hand crossbow firing right in your face
Mm-hmm.
crossbow machine, right?
Yep.
This is a kind of feat that when you take it, you suddenly gain an ability to break the game a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is when we were talking like there might be some that are, a little bit on the almost broken side.
Mhm.
Maybe not completely broken, but definitely up there, and this is going to be a tier S.
I think so. I mean, easily. This is one of the ones that you'll find on the forums that people are like, take this and then,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, not a great sign. Um, that being said, if people are going to go in and they're not going to do this huge thing, if you do want to make a character that's like, I slash with a sword and I fire with this hand crossbow, this gets a little bit more interesting.
Yes.
I just think the focus on crossbow expert and then later on sharpshooter, like to do these massive archery combinations, get a
Hmm.
little absurd.
Yep.
So I think the intent was good, but it can be used for bad purposes.
Yeah. All right. And I
I wish it
totally agree with
was
that.
I wish it was designed around that like sword and crossbow kind of, because that's what I want from it. Like
Yeah.
crossbow duelist.
I mean, if they took away the one-handed weapon aspect to ranged weapons, right? One or two-handed aspect.
Right. Mhm. Or if it said one-handed melee weapon.
Yeah, or it said one-handed melee weapon. I think that would be more appropriate as well. All right. Well, anyway, that's a very strong feat. Totally worth taking if you're a
It
crossbow nerd.
is.
Flipping into something a little less offensive, but a little more
Sure.
defensive.
Oh,
Defensive duelist. So when you're wielding a finesse weapon in which you are proficient and another creature hits you with an attack, you can use your reaction to add your proficiency bonus to AC for that attack, potentially causing that attack to miss. Okay. So first thing I want you to pay attention to is how often you can do this.
right. So it's a reaction. So usually you're going to have that.
Yep.
And you have to get hit with a melee attack by another creature
Yep.
while you're doing the thing you're going to be doing no matter what. If you take this feat, you're doing this.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
The prereq,
It's
it doesn't matter.
it's essentially like for one attack around, it's essentially until you're hit, it's essentially a +3 plus AC bonus all the time, right?
Right.
I mean, once you get hit, it goes away, but then as soon as you have your turn back, it's back.
Right.
Um, yeah.
That's not bad. I mean, if you took this as a first level human, you're getting a +2. Everyone else is getting a +3 pretty quick,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So that's not bad. I'm usually not a fan of this kind of ability because it is so like numerical. It doesn't excite me,
Yeah.
you know? Um First, I even like Stone's endurance, like the Goliath ability, a little bit more than just this. My AC goes up a little bit, but I do like the way you phrase it. Like I can just treat it as my AC is kind of higher until
Yeah.
until I need my
Yeah.
reaction or I get hit.
Yeah. To you need your reaction, or yeah, you have to use your reaction to avoid getting hit. Then you just
Mhm.
you think of your AC just a little bit higher most of the time, and it's pretty great.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Now, is it tier A great? No, I think it's tier B great.
I agree.
Certain builds it'll work for. I've made certain builds that it works for.
Mhm.
I do enjoy sometimes the very dexterous, very hard to hit characters,
Yeah,
and
and this
so
this is good for those gishes who can't wear like decent armor and
yeah,
things like that. I'm really focused on my dexterity as my only defense. It's very good for
it's
that.
it's definitely a nice backup for
Mhm.
when you don't have shield, right? Like, oh no,
Yeah,
shield's gone, so let me use this defensive duelist, right?
right.
So on and so forth. So
And at some point, it just is shield all the time, right? So
yep,
it gets a
pretty
high
much
enough level.
shield all the time. All right. So I'm a big fan of this. I'm a big fan of Dragon Fear as a feat. This is prerequisite
Mhm.
Dragonborn. That might change it, I like the idea. So
Yeah,
in fourth edition, when we had Dragon Fear for Dragonborns, what it did is it replaced their breath weapon, and you could force other creatures to flee you. Um,
yeah,
which is essentially the same thing here, but you get a kickoff. So kicking it off, you get a strength, con, or charisma increase by 1. You know, those are all sweet, sweet ability modifiers for Dragonborn and a lot of other
Totally.
classes. And and so uh, I like so instead of or exhaling a destructive breath, you can expand your Dragon Breath racial trait to roar, forcing
Right.
characters of your choice within 30 feet of you to make a Wisdom saving throw versus your Charisma modifier with some bonuses. And yeah, I think this is fun. We've
Mhm.
talked about frightened is a fun kind of ability or a status effect to give out, to receive, that type of stuff. There's a lot of fun here. I think Dragon Fear is fun.
Yeah,
Is
I
it
agree.
better than having a Dragon Breath?
I think so. I think Dragon Breath is a ton of fun,
Mm-hmm.
and at some point it stops being as useful, right? It's not the damage dealing thing you really want. It's kind of fun, but if you swap that for Dragon Fear, I wouldn't blame you.
Yeah, yeah. So and I'm picturing this like, on a paladin, right?
Sure.
Someone taking advantage of that charisma boost is who
Mhm.
I think would most likely take this feat. Someone looking for
Yeah.
that charisma boost. If you're looking for that charisma boost and you want to drop this dragon fear on the enemies, it's great. And I do like this part, forcing each creature of your choice within 30 feet.
Right.
Uh, that's important. That way you don't scare the poop out of your companions.
Your friends, they get used to it. They're okay.
Yeah, yeah, they do.
Um, yeah, but I love the frightened condition. This is one of my favorite styles of abilities. I think for scary characters to get. This is the one that says I don't need the intimidation skill. I got a trick,
Exactly,
and
right?
I like that. You will only be able to do it once every short rest, which is still
Mhm.
often enough, but
Yeah, you'll
I,
get
I
to do
like
it.
it.
You got stat bonus. You'll get to do it at least
Hmm.
once a day. You'll once a gaming session probably.
Yeah,
Keying it off your charisma, maybe good, maybe bad, depends on your build.
sure.
The frightened status effect is a great one to slap on someone.
Hmm.
I think this is all good. I don't think it's tier S.
No, I
I'm
agree with that.
I'm jumping between B and A.
I feel like because it gets rid of an option that you
Yeah.
had before. That's what
Mhm.
puts it into B for me. Like this, if this was in addition to your breath weapon, awesome.
Yeah.
Now I've got choices. Um, but yeah, if I lose my breath weapon, if by making this choice, I might regret that at some point.
Right, right. Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, I like tier B.
I don't know.
Perfect.
I
No,
do like the feat though. I really do.
I do. I think it's a well constructed feat. And this is a
Mhm.
later feat. This came out of Xanathar. So,
Yeah,
I feel like we're seeing a little bit of the power creep in this one where they're doing things that are more interesting.
I agree.
And that's what I hope to see out of Tasha's tomorrow.
Yes. Oh, tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what about Dragon Hide?
So Dragonhide, also a spillover of fourth edition.
Mhm.
Um, you in fourth edition you would get a bonus to your AC, and so the way that this one works is Dragonhide kicks off increasing your strength, your con, and your charisma. So once again, all three stats are great for most Dragonborn players. What they're going to be playing, they're probably going to want to use one of those. You don't see a lot of
Yeah.
Dragonborns focused on Dex and Wisdom. It's usually strength, con, and charisma.
Mhm.
Your scales harden, so while you aren't wearing armor, you can calculate your AC as 13 plus your Dex mod, and you can use this shield and still benefit. And that's the big thing, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a ton of fun once you start thinking about various builds.
Sure.
And I'll talk about that in a second. But you also glow retractable claws from the tips of your fingers, extending or retracting claws requires no action. So essentially, you are always armed. They only deal 1d4 plus strength modifier, but still, you always have some kind of attack available to you. So the
Right.
builds that I see this working best for are builds that all does not match up for. The builds that I see this working best for are going to be monks, are going to be rogues, are going to be sorcerers, maybe. Um,
Right.
Anyone who's going to be relying on that natural AC of 13 plus, your dex is not going to be also. Oops, excuse me. Fixing my my seat, is not going to also be the same person who's interested in using the claws for 1d4 plus your strength modifier.
I mean, that's true.
You're
Yeah.
targeting two different um two different characters with this one feat is my thought.
Mhm. Yeah, I think so. And honestly, I am not the biggest fan of the natural weapon just in general. I think it's fine. I like never being unarmed. I mean, that part is good for sure. Um, Here's the thing that gets me about this one is you don't get a bonus to dexterity as your choice, but your armor is keyed off dexterity, but it's like a hardening thing. I guess if it was plus con, it would be overpowered, but I still wish it was plus con.
Hmm.
um, that's not quite the regular design choice, I suppose, for these things. But if I'm getting Dragonhide, I don't want to focus on my dexterity as the thing keeping me safe. I want it to be my thick dang scales. Um, that I think that's the only change I would make on this feat. Which means, as it stands, I'm not super excited about this feat.
I'm also not super excited about this feat. I think it comes in at the bare minimum at a tier C,
Yeah.
with the fact that it has a boost to the stat.
Mhm.
There are some uses for it. I can see them.
Yeah.
There is a gish that you can build with this, but once again, you're gonna be ignoring at least half of this feat, no matter
Right.
what.
And
Or
if
I guess a
my
third of this feat.
sure, and if my other option is instead to take Aberrant Dragon Mark and get Mage Armor,
Right.
what am I doing?
Yep.
It's fine. I think there's better ways to get the same effect without wasting half a feat.
Yeah. All right. Let's move to Drow High Magic.
Okay.
We've had a lot of complaints about Drow Magic in this edition already. Whenever we're looking at other variations, when we're looking at clerics and
Mm,
fighters, and so this is kind of the opportunity to attempt to improve your magic. So
yes.
you learn more of the magic that is typical of Dark Elves. You learn Detect Magic Spell and can cast it at will without expending a spell slot. That's
Okay.
kind of sweet. You just always can be detecting magic.
Right, and also not as a ritual. That's just as a
Yeah.
cast. That's
Yep.
nice.
That's nice. You also learn Levitate and Dispel Magic, each of which you can cast once without expending a spell slot. And you regain the ability to cast those two spells in this way when you finish a long rest. Charisma is your spellcasting modifier for these three spells.
Hmm.
So yeah, I don't know. I feel like this should have been an invocation for a warlock, right? Like I love the idea,
Oh, I
the
got you.
ability to be able to detect magic all the time without expending a spell slot.
Yeah.
But is it? But
Very,
is
very
it?
warlock.
Is it? Is it really? That's my
Here.
secret. I always detect magic. Aubrey's
um,
killing it in the chat today.
absolutely. Um, I would say though, here's the thing for me is you get to spell magic. Dispel magic once a day, and
Hmm.
I think that's can be very powerful. Maybe that's my like third edition holdover.
Yeah.
Um, but dispel magic is one. It's the third level spell I would always pick. Like if I get two spells at third level, one's going to be dispel magic, and then I'm going to pick fireball or fly or whatever I think I need for my character. But I always went to dispel as like a standby.
Yeah, and
Um,
you could potentially get dispel magic at fourth level this way.
yeah, get it a little bit earlier.
Hmm.
Um, It's going to be based on your charisma. You get it once a day if I am a charisma based character. Anyways, this is just like a fun extra thing I just get to do
Yeah.
and never really need to worry about. Uh, Levitate, yeah, that's cool. Detect magic all the time, yeah, fine. For me, this is really like I'm going to get dispel magic once a day,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
I guess I was looking at it differently. I was thinking, oh man, I'll detect magic all the time. But no, you're
which is
right
nice.
too. Like, and I've used dispel magic a fair amount with my last wizard that I played. So yeah, it would be nice to have an extra free cast of it where I'm not taking up space for my
Mm,
fireball or something like that.
right. Because you usually don't need to cast it 5 times. My sorcerer doesn't need to have it memorized, but my
No.
sorcerer could take this feat. Just
Yeah.
have one on standby. I don't know. We're not getting stat bonuses or anything. We're just getting a spell a day. Is
Hmm.
dispel magic once a day plus detect magic all the time? They'll
Hmm.
throw that in there. Is that
Yeah.
worth your feat option.
So I think going into this one, I was thinking this was going to end up being a C.
Hmm.
But you've kind of convinced me it's not as trash as I had thought before. So I'm thinking it's tier B based on how
Sure.
often I would use it, and there for me, this is for me, right? In my opinion, like it's not an exciting feat, so I
No.
can't. In my head, it's not an A.
Hmm.
Um, it's not a fun feat. It's a utility feat, which utility feats are good, but still, I don't think it's tier
Right.
A. I think
Right.
it's tier B.
Yeah, I'm gonna put this like in defensive duelist kind of. It's not one that excites me a lot. That being said, this feat allows your character to be like a in charge of magic, kind of, if that makes sense. You can just be like, I see the magic stuff. No, I don't like that magic. That's gonna stop. I don't need to attach that to the drow in particular.
Right.
I'd love to see a retheme because this could be for anybody, just being like, I don't know, the spell balancer. I know there's Forgotten Realms lore lets me be this character. I don't know what it is though.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I am the
Absolutely.
spell plague.
Right. Yeah. You're the personification of spell plague. Yeah. I don't know. It could be fun in the right builds.
Yeah,
I can agree with that. And it might be even more fun after Tasha's. We get Tasha's tomorrow.
sure. Let me see how it
But
changes.
we see what changes and how it changes. All right. Dual wielder.
Oh,
Uh, so when I first started into fifth edition,
yeah,
I thought this was going to be the go-to feat.
right.
When I first went looking through the feats, I was like, well, clearly, like every melee person is going to take this feat,
Hmm.
and it hasn't been that way. I haven't seen a
Nope.
ton of people take this. Most of the time it's people who. But here's the problem: is I think more people would take it if they understood the way two weapon fighting works in
I
fifth
agree.
edition.
Yeah.
Uh,
I have taken this feat, I think, twice.
yeah,
Because I was with you. I was like, why wouldn't I take that? That's great.
yeah.
And I make double wielding, dual wielding characters a lot just because I think the concept is fun.
Hmm.
Um, which means this is good for me.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
this is an overlooked feat because people just don't know the rules as well, right?
right.
How many times have you sat at a table and there's someone wielding two scimitars and they don't have this feat, right? And it's like, oh,
Yeah,
how are
you
you
need
doing
that.
that?
You need that feat.
Yeah.
Um, Right, but I often see people jump directly to, well, why would I want to do two weapons? Great weapons are really good in this edition, and I
Hmm.
see more barbarians and fighters going for great weapons or sword and shield than I do dual weapon. Especially because you have to choose a fighting style. You get a damage bonus on your offhand. It takes your bonus action. It's a lot of effort to
It
get that
is.
second attack. So a lot of people skip it.
Yeah. So and, you know this one sits in a funny place in my heart in that
Mhm.
it it's a good feat that nobody takes.
Yeah. My favorite version of this is the I did this with my hand axe wielder, although those are light, so I don't need this. But it was
Hmm.
like hand axes and then flipping to battle axes, being able to draw them very quickly.
Yeah.
Um, it was kind of a fun character build.
Yeah, and I mean the bonus AC is nothing to scoff at too. Whenever the ACs are so low in this edition, right? If you
Mhm.
have a 20 AC, you are nigh unhittable for most of your career.
Right.
Um, so anytime you get a bonus to AC, so and this is one of those deceptive ones where I think it's good, but yeah, not a lot of people take it, and I don't, yeah, so I don't know that it's
Yeah.
an A because of that, right?
Right. I mean
And
the
I think Yeah, and I think that's a part of the way that fifth edition has kind of moved away from that very classic two weapon fighting rogue style that we all
yeah.
expect and love, right? Even our rogue characters, they only get one attack around in this edition.
Right.
And in a bonus action they could do stuff, but yeah. So
I don't need my bonus action for this. Yeah.
I think it's good, but I don't think it's I think in this edition it's not as good as some of us who remember these things from previous
Yeah.
editions, as good as they want it to be.
Right. I'm not exactly willing to say it's a trap, right? I mean, the best
Yeah.
it's going to do is take my D6 die type up to a D8 in both
Hmm.
hands, and
Right.
if and a plus one AC. I mean, it's not bad. It's not
It's not
bad.
bad.
But yeah, I don't think it's the winning condition that we were hoping for.
Yeah. So I'm kind of thinking this is a C.
I agree. which feels bad as a
It
feat that I
does.
have chosen to take.
As yeah, I just remember reading the 5th edition book, and the first thing I did was like, okay, so how do I make a dual wielding XYZ?
Exactly.
Because in every edition, like the big damage output has always been from the the dual wielding ranger with like 50 attacks who just kind of
Mhm.
cuts through the entire board, right?
Yeah.
And they did away from that in 5th edition, which I think is smart, right? Because it diversifies the field. You still have the occasional people who do the 2-weapon fighting, but you have a lot more people doing sword and board, which I think is good. I
Yep.
like people doing sword and board. And you see a lot of people doing the two-handed weapon fighting, which I think is good as well.
Yeah.
But really having dual wielders set the way it is, I think has benefited sword and board style of play. So,
I agree. Yeah, I think C is a perfect spot for this feat.
yep.
Ah, but it hurts.
It does, and this next one is going to hurt a little bit too. I think.
Is this?
Now there's a few different reasons for this, but anyway, so you dungeon delver, alert to hidden traps and secret doors found in many dungeons. You gain the following benefits. You have advantage on wisdom, perception, intelligence, investigation checks to detect the presence of secret doors. You have advantage on saving throws to avoid and resist traps. You have resistance to the damage dealt by traps. Traveling at a fast pace does not impose the normal -5 penalty to your passive wisdom score.
Wow.
There's a lot going on here, but there's a lot of nothing going on here. And
There totally is nothing. Yeah.
yeah, I'm running a dungeon crawl right now. I'm running it by the book.
Mhm.
Uh, most of the traps do not have saving throws to resist them. You just go in. That's part of the way that 5th edition is designed. Is not every trap can you escape once you've triggered it.
Right.
Um, and then the advantage is nice, but you would be better off taking something that gives you a bonus.
Right.
Um,
And this is another one, like this sort of thing, right? You are playing this game with a party of characters, and it's rare for a DM to say, hold on, which of you has the highest perception score? Which of you is going to be the one to look for secret doors, right? When I say make a perception check, everybody in the room makes a perception check because they just want to. And so does my advantage, if I were playing a dungeon crawl and it was more like Tomb of Annihilation, maybe, and it was like, I'm going to do this focus, like you're the trap finder, you're the only one who gets to roll. This feat is
mhm.
could be good. As it is, like the game makes it not necessary.
Yeah, I'm thinking this is going to be our first tier D.
I think so. It also, again, creates a rule that didn't exist before. I don't know that I didn't realize was a rule before the last part about traveling at a fast pace,
Yeah,
which makes sense.
nobody.
But
Yeah, and
yeah, I don't
nobody
care.
pays attention to this. Yeah,
Nope.
nobody pays attention to that.
Nope. Skip it.
And this is one of those things.
Drable. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, now I kind of want to go back here. This is one of those things that's a holdover from like I want to say a holdover from 3rd edition where they tried to put so many rules on top of everything.
Mhm.
Which was a departure from 2nd edition where, if you debase 2nd edition, like they didn't codify everything because why, right? And I think
Yeah.
I think that's part of the problem that we saw in 3rd edition, which a lot of people loved, is how everything was codified. But I'm glad 5th edition has stepped away from that a little bit, and I think
Yeah.
this right here is one of those things where it's like this is just a leftover thing where it's like, well, this was a sacred cow to somebody, and they
Yep.
didn't want to sacrifice it. So
We're gonna put it in the game, and we just don't play the game like that.
yeah, 6th edition, this is gone. All right. Anyway,
Totally.
all right, durable.
Durable.
This is a feat I enjoy. I like durable. I think I've
Yeah.
taken this feat a lot.
Mhm.
You're hardy and resilient, and you gain the following benefits. Increase your con score by 1 up to 20, and when you roll hit dice for hit points, the minimum hit points you regain from each roll is twice your con modifier. Yeah, so I think that's great. I like it.
I agree. I That second benefit is very good. Just because I hate rolling low on those. It's so
Right?
frustrating.
Yeah.
Um, this does, I mean, there is the minimum, so there's kind of a weird math thing going on there, I think, but I do
Hmm.
like increasing hit dice overall, making
Yeah.
sure I don't roll crap. So
Yeah.
that's
And
nice.
this is especially good if you have one of those DMs that have really long adventuring days where you're
Mhm.
taking multiple short rests, right?
Yep.
being able to, take this extra little bonus means you're going to be able to adventure longer,
Mhm.
and you're not going to be so strapped for hit points towards the end of the day.
Yeah, this is a really good one. If you take it at fourth level, just think to yourself, have I ever done 2 short rests in the same day? Yes. Okay, this feat could be possible. If not, like,
Yeah,
no, move away. But you're
right. But
totally right.
yeah, so I think most folks take 2 short rests at least, if not more. And so I think this is a solid feat. Am I gonna grab other feats before I grab this one? Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's tier S.
No.
Am I gonna build a character around taking this? Maybe. So it might be tier A, but I'm kind of thinking it's tier B.
I think so. This is one. Well, personally, I would take this once I start running out of other options.
Yeah.
I've got my first choice. I've got my second choice. My stats are good, maybe durable at this point. Especially once I have a ton of hip dice and I'm really relying on them.
All right. Well, let's see here. Let's move on to Dwarven Fortitude. I think we're in the
Mhm.
the fortitude area of the feats as we were talking
Yeah.
about hit dice, and now we're going to talk about Dwarven Fortitude.
Okay. So again, we don't know how this one is going to get rewritten.
Mm-hmm.
Prereq dwarf. I don't know what it's going to be based on. Maybe the poison resistance. Who knows? But we get 2 benefits: increase your con score by 1.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And whenever you take the dodge action in combat, you can spend 1 hit die to heal yourself. Roll the die, add your con modifier, regain a number of hit points, just like you normally do. Um, there's no limit on that. It's every time you dodge. You can do it during combat.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Here's one of the things that I miss about second edition, and I
Mhm.
don't remember it much from third edition. How they did it, but the you used to, every time you leveled, you got a certain amount of points to kind of divide amongst your rogue skills, your pick locks,
Right.
your traps,
Sure.
your stuff. I don't know how they did in third edition, but that's how you did in second edition. One
Yeah.
of the things I missed is that each race had their own bonuses to different aspects of it.
Hmm.
So in second edition, one of your choices was you could be a dual class uh, fighter rogue or cler. I want to say cleric rogue. I'm not
I'm
100%,
pretty
but you
sure. Yeah.
you you could be a fighter rogue, and that was one of the options. And they were really good at things like picking locks, right, or disabling traps, but they weren't great at picking pockets, that type of stuff, or using magic items. Um, so and the reason I bring this up is there's not as many dwarven rogues as there were as there was in second edition, at least,
Sure.
and I do think that's a problem. And this is one of those feats that I think if you were to make a dwarven rogue and take this feat, because you can take the dodge action. Oh, it is taking the dodge. Oh, you just take the odd dodge action in combat. You could take the dodge action as a bonus action with a rogue,
Yeah.
right?
Use your cunning action.
Exactly. Yeah. Right.
So
So it I think this would be really really interesting on a rogue,
mhm, I agree.
and it'd be a ton of fun to play.
I think this is more interesting than to me than playing the rogue sniper, where you use
Yes.
your cunning action to hide constantly. Like, just get up there in the thick of it, like attack, get your sneak attacks off, and use dodge and heal if you need to. Like, I think
Yeah.
that's a lot of fun. Um, it's a good option to have on the table. People don't use dodge, I think, very much. I don't see it because people would rather like take the gamble on attacking or fine, hit me, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Um, but uh, but if I took this feat, boy, I'd use it all the time,
Right.
every chance I got.
Yeah. I'm kind of thinking, because I think this is one of those sleepers, right, where it's a lot better than a lot of people expect.
Yeah.
And they just have to think about how to use it. And this is one of those ones that I think it's default of the previous editions, that people don't think of dwarves as rogues as often
I
anymore.
yeah. Hmm.
And so, like, as much as I want to put it at tier A, I don't think it's quite tier A. I think it's tier B, just because of
Yeah.
people's perception and less the feat itself.
Right. But now I'm immediately thinking about I don't know what am I going to do? I'm going to be a second level rogue. I'm going to jump into barbarian maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Going to be a dwarf. I'm going to take durable at some point as well, so that boost
Yeah.
is always at a high
Yeah.
level. You're never
Yeah.
taking me down.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. No. Like, I've thought about so many variations of rogue, something else built around
Mhm.
this idea. It's just like,
Smart.
yeah, it's in any time you can find something that uses your reactions or bonus actions in a very beneficial and creative and cool way, that is going to just be so much fun to play at the table. And I think there's opportunities here with Dwarven Fortitude.
That might wow, I tempted. Might play a dwarf.
Right?
It's been a
Yeah.
long time.
Yeah.
That would be a reason. It's just to play around with that cunning action.
Yeah. Oh man, A or B? I kind of think A now. More we talk about it, the more I kind of like it.
It's very if you take this, you're going to be happy about it. I mean, it's the only time your hit dice get moved into the combat phase instead of out of combat.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
that is pretty great. So, all right. Well, let's see here. Yeah, let's go ahead and
You want
knock
to
out
text
the.
through some more?
Let's go ahead and no, let's pick up the E's next week. I'm just looking at the time, so we'll call it good there. What I do want to show you is how this is all going to end up whenever we are done. So what I'm
Oh,
doing is I'm setting up this board, and on this board, what you'll see is the various tiers. And I'm going to do this, and it's just going to look ugly for a minute. But what we'll do is we'll make kind of an infographic out of this. So we'll have the tier A, B, C all listed like this, and we'll put that on our website for folks to check out later.
very
Um,
nice.
so if you're watching this later on the YouTubes, on the Facebooks, I don't think we post to Facebook. If you watch this later on the YouTubes, feel free to reach out, and hopefully we'll have this up soon for everyone to check out. We'll be back again next week to go through E through something something. I don't know how far we'll get, but we'll get as far as we can. And I'm hitting all the buttons. So those of us who are joining us here on Twitch, thanks for following. Go ahead and subscribe. That's super helpful. Those of us watching this later on YouTube, thank you so much for hanging out with us for this hour. And also subscribe, and I think there's a little bell thing where you can get reminders that we've posted videos somewhere. And
Somewhere.
we of course also have a Discord and all our social media stuff, which has been flashing on the screen the entire stream. So join us there. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.